I'm Abi Jameson and I'm a contemporary artist. I think the point I decided to call myself an artist was really recently. I've been showing my art for many, many years, but always had that kind of imposter syndrome. I'm doing an exhibition in London. I'm definitely an artist now in my head. I feel like I can own that title, but yeah, it took a while. It took a long while before I could call myself that. No, I mean, I can remember very recently when I have, but I don't remember the first time. But I do remember the first time someone else called me an artist. And that was a really lovely feeling. And it's a friend of mine that's a big fan of my work and big supporter, I'll say, of my work. And she introduced me as my friend Abi the artist. And I did quite like it. I thought, okay, yeah, I'll take that. So it's a building all by itself next to where I live. It was made by the old owner out of anything that he could find. So it's a cobbled together chalet in the woods with its own little veranda, a giant sofa in there because I spend a lot of my time sitting on there playing the guitar, waiting for my paints to dry. I actually play guitar to my paintings. Sometimes I have a microphone and I even say thank you very much to my paintings. But it's an organised chaos. There's paints everywhere, inks everywhere. It's my very, very happy place, my little den in the middle of a pine forest. So how I navigate my way around the studio with my eyes the way that they are, because I'm blind in this eye and partially sighted in this eye, is I've come to realise that so not all of the information goes into my brain because I've got damaged optic nerves. I've come to realise that it's not a dark world, my brain fills in the missing blanks. So because I'm used to navigating around the studio, it's kind of a memory site that I see. I'll come a cropper if someone snuck in the night and put a load of obstacles in my way. I would trip over all of them. And I literally wouldn't see them, but I do see the floor. So it is quite literally seeing through my memory, which is hard to believe. But I've come a cropper a few times when that has happened, so I know that's true. So this is my ×5.5 magnifying glass. And before I got some lovely ×5.5 glasses made and stronger magnification as well made, I used to paint with this, and it's my best friend. I still use it every day. I cry if I lose it. I now have a few spare, but it's how I look at everything up close and how I see the details, because I see a pattern over everything. But when I've got this and this, whatever I'm looking at 10 centimetres away, the pattern seems to go away. So it's my best friend. So the method of my painting, I would say, is always slightly different every time. I have a few techniques, but on the main I will start with a sketch and try and do a mini version of what I want to paint. And sometimes the mini version will make it all the way, I'll sell the mini version, I'm so happy with it. Sometimes I will take this mini version and then take photographs of nature and flowers and trees that I love, and then I'll very much use Photoshop as a tool to mix the two together and change colours until I have my very own personal reference photo, which I will then paint big. So that's my normal process, but I'm trying to be a bit freer than that. I'm trying to let go a bit more, because I'm absolutely like, oh, I can't paint it yet because the reference photo isn't perfect, so I need to change it more digitally. And the last few paintings I've done, I've tried to have the reference photo, but then let the painting flow into its own thing as well, rather than copying my reference photo. So that's where I'm headed. I feel they're freer than they were even 5 years ago. I will let the picture talk to me and take it where she wants to go. I say she because it's always a female form, portrait or nude. So I will let her take me if it does. Sometimes, I won't lie, it's exactly like the reference photo, and it's been the journey before that's taken me there. And I can almost relax at the painting part. You know, I'll spend half a day mixing the colours to go with the reference photo, and even that, it just becomes therapeutic, because I've done the inspiration before, so it's either or. I'd say I have about 100 in my head, and then normally 2 or 3 on the go. I have 5 easels, but I would say 2 or 3. Sometimes a painting really, really doesn't work though, and 2 of those paintings on the go will be turned facing the wall for 2 or 3 weeks until I'm desensitized to them, and then I turn them around and look at them afresh, and I can see exactly what's wrong. But you can get too close to your art. You can tell, you know, if someone else is doing a piece of art, oh, that eye's too high, or this eye's too high, or what's not working for me. Obviously it's working for them, but I have to become desensitized. So my influences, I would say, early on was definitely Picasso. Specifically when I saw a painting of a female nude that he'd done with an abstract background, and it was just the lines that I found absolutely gorgeous. Tried to copy it, looked absolutely rubbish, but I think he's amazing. His technical ability before even he went abstract is up there with any of the masters. If you've ever seen any of his early work, he trained as a classical artist, and then his whole career was spectacular. I think he was one of the most prolific artists of his time. He created thousands and thousands of artwork, so I'm a huge fan of Picasso. Also, Gustav Klimt, in his golden period, was and is still now one of my favourite artists. I would cover my walls in Gustav Klimt, or have a Gustav Klimt room if I could afford one of his originals. And the patterns that he used to paint, the intimacy he had with 2 of his subjects, again, a huge fan. Frida Kahlo, I really love, but didn't discover properly until I had painted a few ladies with flowers in their hair, which was to represent how I saw the world, and how if you were standing in front of some nature, my eyes will literally blend you into the flowers. So I had this really original idea of the faces and the flowers all mixed in with the head, and I guess Siri picked up how much I liked that kind of image and started showing me pictures of Frida Kahlo, and I was like, damn, God, it's happened way, way before I had the thought. So yeah, but I'm a huge fan of her art now, so I try to really research what she did and why she did what she did. I like to get into the nitty-gritty. Yes, I've got a huge amount of influences coming in from other places other than art. I go for a walk every morning and listen to a podcast. It sets me up, I'm in the woods, sets me up for the day artistically. In an ideal world, this is every day. Sometimes it's not every day. And I love to listen to a couple of my favourites. The rest is history, because I'm interested in how we used to behave many, many years ago, quite simply, did we think the same? Were we as creative with less material stuff around us? Probably, but I'm hugely influenced by that. And the other one is The Infinite Monkey Cage, which is all about physics and the universe, but I'm completely addicted to it. And both podcasts actually have a lot of comedy in them, and I tend to be able to take information on that's really complicated if there's humour attached to it. So The Infinite Monkey Cage is brilliant. There's always two scientists and a comedian, which stands for me, the layman. But they're always talking about quantum physics and what is real, what isn't real, and that all of those subject matters will drift into my art. So I'm particularly hooked on quantum physics at the moment. And because I don't trust what I see to be real, I love the fact that actually what's around us probably isn't real anyway. I know when a piece of art is going in the right direction because I literally fall in love with the painting. I don't know if that's normal or not. I probably shouldn't be an artist, so I don't actually want to sell any of them. But when it's going really well, and it sells, I'm like, okay. Also, my husband is a fantastic critic of my art. He's brutally honest. And when he doesn't like it, he'll say, that's not working, or that's a pile of. And if I love it, I'll defend it. It naturally comes out, and then I'll know it's working. And if I'm not sure, it kind of breaks me, and then I'm like, yeah, you're right, but I don't defend it. So he's a really good person to have. I don't need someone going, oh, I love it, but I need him to be that brutally honest, to know how I really feel and if it's working or not. So if the painting isn't working, a few things will happen. The first thing I normally do, if I'm unsure and I think it has got a potential, I will put it to one side against the wall for 3 or 4 weeks. And I look at it with fresh eyes. It's normally like, oh my God, what is that? It's absolutely rubbish. Or, oh, actually, it's not as bad as I thought. And it will be one or the other, not much in between. Or if it really is terrible, I quite often just paint it out there and then. And I've done that before. I did that with one of my ballet paintings that I'm showing in my exhibition in London. And I painted it out and then burst out crying because it was a huge mistake. And then painted one of my best paintings, in my opinion, on top. So it was a really dramatic process. So sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind to your art. And yeah, it's not always black and white though, those decisions. The mood really, really affects my creativity. And you can see that from my art. If you go through my website, there are yellow periods. And my mood is literally sunny and shiny, and I want to celebrate the core. Yellow is a very, very emotional, joyous, energetic colour to me. And there are some very, very dark black paintings where I really was struggling mentally with my emotions, and the painting kind of drew that out, like a good crying session on your friend's shoulder would do. You'll feel lighter at the end of it. Those paintings give me a huge amount of joy at the end. The process is really, really cathartic, but every single painting has an emotion in there. I started my art journey thinking this could be fun. 20 years ago, I moved to France and thought, what am I going to do now? I used to work in events. But before that, I was working in theatre and prop making and scenic painting. So I moved to France and started painting. It took about 6 or 7 years and many art classes before I felt confident to show my art to anybody. But when I did, I got good reactions. So that question about when was I first called an artist was around that time, but I didn't quite believe it then. So for about 3 years I was painting, and in 2010 I discovered that I had a problem with one of my eyes. Long story short, I had a tumour wrapped around my optic nerve. They operated, but the sight didn't come back in that eye. But everything was okay. 3 years later, they found another one in my optic canal. They operated, but the sight didn't come back in this eye. It's not a dark world, but it's a much more interesting world. But during the time of the loss of the second eye, I will call my low period, I didn't paint for 3 years. I didn't think I could paint again, and it was eventually through the encouragement of my family and friends, who were absolutely incredible. It was their encouragement that got me back to trying to paint again, and my art, simply put, gave me a way back to a very happy place in the end. I used my damaged nerves as a tool to discover weird and wonderful things. My eyes will mix you into a background. I have a pattern over everything. Like I've said, I can't trust what I see. And as an artist, it's a really interesting way forward. I think my art's better, actually. Well, it's more passionate now than it was before. I have to paint. It was a kind of hobby before, and now it's my life. I feel it. I wouldn't know what else to do. If I wasn't an artist, a painting artist, I think I would still be creative. I hope I would still be creative. I don't know whether I would ever be good enough to play the guitar or sing professionally, but I would like to think that maybe I could have been a backing singer somewhere. Yeah, that's a funny question. So if I had to pick a particular part of the art process that I love the most, I don't know if I could, because it's such a whole journey. I mean, I will say I love the paint mixing. I'm probably a bit too much and a bit anal about that, but a lot of my recent paintings will just have 3 primary colours, white and white, and maybe one other mixed colour like a burnt umber. That's it. And I've got to mix all of the colours. I can be a bit anal about that, you know, I've literally got to mix every single colour now before I paint, but I love it so much. So yeah, I wouldn't be the same if I didn't have that section. If someone took it all away, you could only do this, it would be mixing the paint probably. But next best thing obviously is putting it on the canvas. I think an artist's place in the world is multifaceted. I think your job is to simply lift a space with some joyous colours, or another artist's job is to comment on what's going on in the world. Another artist's job is to show it in a different light. You could go on and on and on. My job, I think, is to show the world how I see, because it's such a peculiar way of seeing. I hope it would allow people to look at my art and question how they see, and maybe see it in a different light for themselves. This is how I try and show people how I see. I can't trust what I see to be real, but then what is real? But I also do want to bring hope and inner strength and a visual beauty and harmony into a space that maybe just needs a lift, a talking point. There's so many jobs for an artist to do out there. I don't think you can bring it all together as one artist. I think collectively our job is to question the world, to question the politics, question everything, everywhere. And music, art, however you're doing it creatively, writing, acting, our job is to question everything, discover what we're doing, why we're doing it, where we're going, bring people together. That's a really important thing, not so much in the art world, but creatively. We need to be a big, happy tribe on this planet, don't we? Or help each other through the unhappy times.